This week, Mike gets absolutely legless with his latest trip through the Videogame Shoebox. We take a look at Tetris with a twist, new indie game Tricky Towers, which is out now for PC and PS4, and Angelo spends some quality time with the Toybox Mode in upcoming platformer Yooka-Laylee. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week we live in a world where thousands of people have asked for a refund on a free-to-play game after the team at Niantic changed the way Pokemon Go works. Before you ask, people are asking for refunds of the in-game purchases they've made, buying incense and lures with real-world money, and in many cases, Apple and Google are paying up. The update did bring some good things. It added the ability to customize your avatars from the profile screen, as well as tweaking a bunch of artwork and improving some memory issues. But it also took away a bunch of stuff, including the black screen power saving mode and, importantly, the footsteps tracking system. The tweak also restricted access to the game's API, meaning third-party sites like PokeVision are now completely useless. PokeVision, which showed the location of Pokemon around the world, had already attracted a less than positive reaction from Niantic, so it's not a surprising move. But gamers around the world are furious. Someone else who's a little bit upset about Pokemon Go are people who thought they were onto a winner by buying up Nintendo shares just after the game's launch. Most of those investors have now sold their stock again after being told, in no uncertain terms, that Nintendo actually has nothing to do with Pokemon Go, which is a joint creation by Niantic and the Pokemon Company. Anyway, now that Pokemon Go has been out for a month and the shine is coming off of our smartphones, it's time to look to the next big thing. And what's bigger than space? People still don't really seem to be sure quite what to expect when No Man's Sky launches on August 11, but we've pieced together a few bits and pieces. Firstly, Hello Games and Sony have confirmed that you do not need a PS Plus account to play the game on PlayStation 4. Yes, technically it is a multiplayer game, but the chances of you meeting your fellow players is so slim that the network is happy to treat it as a single-player affair. We've also had a quick browse of the game's trophy list, which made it into the wild earlier this week. Predictably, they focus almost entirely on exploration, gathering data, and generally hanging out in space. Pretty standard stuff, really, but what's not standard are the trophy names. Have Spacesuit Will Travel, the Forever War, A Space Odyssey, and the Platinum Trophy is Total Perspective Vortex, named after a torture device in Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But while we'd been told that the game was effectively endless, it seems that doesn't necessarily apply. A Redditor by the name of Damien bought an early copy of No Man's Sky for a whopping $1,300 and claims he reached the centre of the universe, arguably the point of No Man's Sky, after just 30 hours of gameplay. If he is telling the truth, it sounds like the game's not quite the vast and sweeping spacescape we've been promised. Moving on though, this week dipped its toes further into the realms of the unknown with the news that a professional soccer star is trading sports for esports. Wendell Lira won the FIFA Puskas Award for Goal of the Year in 2015, beating the likes of Lionel Messi and Carlos Tevez, but it seems the football pitch wasn't for him. Not in the real world anyway. Lira has officially hung up his boots and picked up the controller, and his game of choice? EA Sports FIFA. Of course. Staying in the real world now for a bit, and World of Tanks now has its own real-life plane. We're not quite sure why developer Wargaming chose not to emblazon the Boeing 737-300 with World of Warplanes livery, but hey, the bright orange and black design is striking to say the least. The plane has joined the fleet at Belarusian airline Belavia, with the painted slogan declaring that World of Tanks is a game from Belarus played all over the world. It took 13 artists 1,800 hours to cover the plane in 300 gallons of paint and 450 square metres of stenciling. Since its grand unveiling, the World of Tanks plane has zoomed across Europe, visiting cities including Minsk, London, Kiev and Moscow. We doubt it'll make it much further abroad than that, but it is certainly zipping around the place. And back to the world of video games, and here's some quick news. While we were all delighted to hear that Valve was helping Frontwire Studios work on a successor to Star Wars Battlefront 3, we're not really surprised that the project known as Galaxy in Turmoil has now been unceremoniously shut down by LucasArts and EA. The developer has promised that it will strip all of the Star Wars content from Galaxy in Turmoil and rebrand the game as something inspired by Battlefront that doesn't infringe on anyone's IP. Also, not really surprising, Five Nights at Freddy's follow-up Sister Location will launch in October, just in time for Halloween. Whether or not developer Scott Cawthon can hold on that long is a different question, but that's the date that he's put on Steam. And 2 bits of big screen news to finish up. The first is even more good news for fans of Life is Strange. Max Caulfield and Chloe Price are getting their own live-action digital series that looks like it'll follow the storyline of Don't Nod's episodic masterpiece. The team at Legendary Digital Studios, Square Enix and DJ2 Entertainment are currently looking for the perfect writer for the adaptation, and that's all we really know about that. The second bit is happily a bit more concrete. Believe it or not, the Uncharted movie is not dead. It's been reported that Joe Carnahan has been brought on board as a writer, which is reassuring given that the film's supposed to be in cinemas in less than a year from now. Carnahan is unfortunately not able to direct the film as he's busily working on Bad Boys 3, but with a writing portfolio including Smokin' Aces, The A-Team, The Grey and upcoming Bruce Willis flick Death Wish, it looks like Uncharted should have a decent story at length. For more information on any of these stories or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
Hi, folks! You want to know what's going on? Let me tell you the story of Rayman!
What's up everyone, Mike here with another visit to the Videogame Shoebox. The next few sessions are going to involve the first games I played on specific consoles, and this week I'm going to get absolutely legless, and armless, and neckless. That's it! Rayman! I love Rayman, the limbless, fist-throwing French platforming giant from developer Ludimedia, publisher Ubisoft, and famed game director Michel Ancel has had a bunch of games to his names over the years. A couple of stinkers, but we'll save those for another episode. There's not an awful lot to say about the game itself other than the fact that it has rock-solid platforming, artwork, character designs that are super inspired, catchy music, and oh yeah, Rayman has no limbs. How does he punch? How does he climb? How does he stand? Most importantly, how the hell does he rotate his hair independently of every part of his body and do it at such a speed that it allows him to glide? Show off.
No problem.
Of all the games that I've played over the years, this is one that I still manage to hold in high regard. Not just as a gem that was great at the time, but also one that totally holds up and is enjoyable to this day. Despite the fact that it's over 20 years old at this point, the original Rayman on the PS1 is still great, and I urge you to try it for yourself if you haven't already on one of the many platforms it's been ported to over the years. It was the first game I played on the Sony PlayStation along with 4 others which I will undoubtedly get to one day. Allow me to set the scene. It's Christmas, 1996. The PlayStation has been out for over a year and a bunch of my friends already got one. I've just recently turned 10 and of course, I'm sure it's a conspiracy against my own personal happiness that I don't have one. I did chores and constantly, in my mind, cheekily and subliminally, reminded my parents of the only thing I would like to receive. My younger brother and I were finally allowed to enter the lounge room at 7 AM and of course, like any other little shit, I immediately scanned the size of the gifts for those that closely resembled that of what it is I'm seeking. There is one that fits my detailed files. Of course, I'm excited and immediately want to sprint over, tear that paper off and hold the box aloft like I'm presenting a newly born Simba. but I don't want to spoil the morning for my parents and brother by starting with the showstopper and then potentially being bummed out by the other gifts. So I played the long con. My plan was to open every other gift and get gradually more excited until the crescendo when I open the mystery box and proceed to go absolutely berserk. Until it happened. I opened a smaller gift, totally innocuous in its shape and size. Such was my folly. It was a collection of 5 games wrapped together as one. For the Sony PlayStation. I didn't falter though, I kept the game going. That's weird, I said aloud, on purpose, with my brow furrowed just a little bit to make it look like I was confused. I just got some PlayStation games. I don't have a PlayStation. I was a little shit, but I was at least a courteous little shit. Oh no! I heard my dad yell from the hall as he returned from the bathroom. I clearly wasn't supposed to open that gift yet. It had just got mixed in or they just forgot to hide it. To his credit though, Dad didn't miss a beat. Father Christmas must have mixed it up with another Michael. I'll make sure he gets it back. That was mostly for the benefit of my brother, who was 6 at the time and still very much in Father Christmas age. I continued on. It was a minor speed bump, but was not enough to need to adjust the plan. Eventually, only one remains. I gently untaped the corners, unfolded the paper, and there it was. Oh wow! A PlayStation! Oh, my mother exclaimed. That's what you've been asking for, isn't it? Aren't you lucky? Yeah! And Father Christmas accidentally gave me another Michael's games, but I can have them instead because I have a PlayStation now. I may have been a courteous little shit, but I was still a little shit. That's it for this edition of the Video Game Shoebox. Join me next time when I'll be dusting off some more games from yesteryear. Be sure to let me know in the comments or on Twitter any games you'd like to see on here. I've been Mike Nottridge, and I will see you next time. What's in your Video Game Shoebox?
Tricky Towers is the latest project from the excellently named Weirdbeard Games. It's a deceptively simple puzzler, combining the Tetramino-based gameplay of Tetris with a physics engine and an assortment of devilish twists. Don't think that'll work? It took some convincing to stop me playing for long enough to tell you about it. Even though your focus will be inevitably on the puzzles, there's still a storyline tucked away here. Tricky Towers is about competing magicians who are trying to create the most impressive constructions using blocks that literally fall from the sky. The game is wrapped up in an adorable cartoon art style with a sound scheme to match, twinkly, sparkly noises accompanying your every move, and exiting from a menu sounds like a tiny magician has broken wind. If you want to play by yourself, there are 2 single-player modes, an endless survival mode and a series of handcrafted trials. Endless mode is exactly what it sounds like. Blocks fall from the sky forever, and you must keep building and building until you can build no more. There's a leaderboard attached to this one, so you can see how well you stack up against the rest of the world, or just your friends if you'd like a smaller sample size. The trials, though, are challenging in a different way. Stack blocks to a certain height within a time limit, build a tower using a certain number of blocks with no more than 3 falling off, or stack your blocks to fit below a certain height. The more of these trials you complete, the more difficult they become. It's not quite as simple as organising blocks as they tumble towards you, by the way. You're a magician after all, and you have some great spells at your disposal. Tangling vines can hold some blocks together. A magical outcropping provides a stable building spot where once there was thin air. One spell makes the next block immovable after landing on the tower, providing a stable spot to build a further or pinning the structure for additional stability. And while these are very useful in single player, it's in multiplayer where they're a really big help. Or hindrance, depending. The helpful spells are supplemented with less helpful ones, so you can wreak havoc on your opponents. Try tethering a balloon to another mage's block, making it much slower to drop. Create a floaty bubble around their last place block, causing it to begin to float away, potentially knocking others loose on the way. Multiplayer also comes in 2 different modes. Survival mode is a last man standing affair, and the trials we saw before are now somewhat more competitive. Living up to its name, Tricky Towers is quite, well, tricky. The standard Tetris-like gameplay now has an impressive physics engine attached with varying difficulties. On the easiest mode, you can stand a straight line I block up on its end with no issues. But then the wind starts up, and it can be difficult to get the L block to stick. It's even more challenging when those blocks are also icy, or when the base you're building it on is something less than horizontal. One particularly devilish modifier locks the orientation of the block, so the I blocks are vertical lines, or the T blocks are left in the less than helpful T position. Some blocks just won't balance the way they've been dropped, so they fall over and provide slanted surfaces to make the building process even more of a drama. Better hope for an immovable block spell to create a new level surface. If that wasn't enough, sometimes the game will throw supersized versions of the blocks at you. Try balancing a triple large L block on the highest point of the tower, in a raging gale, on your last life. Tricky Towers is an enjoyable, different, modern take on an old gaming icon, and just like its predecessors, it can be demonically difficult. Half the time it feels like the game has beaten you, and half the time you admit it's really your own fault that everything went wrong. You're useless at this game, useless! But maybe you're not that useless. Maybe you'll do better this next time. Maybe the one after, or the one after that.
Yooka-Laylee is a 3D platforming adventure game from Playtonic Games, a studio of ex-Rare developers who are responsible for mascot platforming games such as Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, and Conker's Bad Fur Day. Yooka-Laylee stars an unlikely pair of buddies in Yooka the Chameleon and Laylee the Bat, who share a symbiotic gameplay relationship. Recently, Playtonic Games released their Toybox demo of the game to Kickstarter backers, and we managed to get our hands on it. This Toybox demo is a pre-alpha build of the game, meaning that some animations and gameplay aspects are unfinished. Yooka-Laylee sports a cartoony art style very typical of games like Banjo-Kazooie. The game is incredibly vibrant, with each character in the demo full of personality. There's even a kind of racist robot. The demo tasks the player with finding 100 quills to be rewarded with a pagey. Along the way are environmental obstacles, high-scale platforming, swimming areas, and butt-stompable switches, all tropes of classic collectathon 3D platformers. Because the game is such an early build, combat is reduced to using Yooka's tail whip, but Playtonic said much more will be involved, such as sonar blasting and tongue whipping. The toy box is sectioned off into separate environments, showing off some of the art and gameplay that will be in the game. There's a swimming area, a couple of corridors blowing gusts of wind, slippery slopes, and some simplistic box puzzles. The game plays and runs super smoothly, utilising the Unity game engine. It feels exactly how you would expect a mascot platformer from the late 90s to play. The real kicker to the demo though, is the return of Grant Kirkhope, responsible for many soundtracks in Rare's legacy. The music is hugely reminiscent of Banjo-Kazooie, and even has that environmental turnover typical of the series where the musical instrumentation transitions depending on the area the player walks into. All these similarities to Banjo-Kazooie. I'm starting to suspect a theme here. Yooka-Laylee is scheduled to release in early 2017 for Steam, PS4, Xbox One, and Wii U. For more on Yooka-Laylee as it comes, keep your eye on Player Attack.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, to celebrate the launch of the new model console, we go behind the scenes and chat to the head of industrial design at Xbox to chat about the Xbox One Model S and those snazzy new personalised controllers. And we feel the need for speed as Johnny puts the pedal to the metal with Gran Turismo Sport. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon and help us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.